Welcome to the InStory show. I'm Devorah Spilman, your host, and today I am thrilled to welcome Jane Friedman. Hi, Jane.
Thank you, love. Hello, everybody.
So Jane is a transformational coach and healer, and she's an astrologer and a yoga master.
Oh, master.
Sorry, I couldn't just say teacher. And truly a master of worthiness, and you'll see.
Yes.
And really she's got a very big, a really powerful message around intuition, because the theme of this season's show is how to trust your intuition and become the leader of your own life. So I make everybody start with the story, being a storyteller. And I have a hunch you probably didn't do the work you do now your whole life. So I'd love to hear a little of your story that I like to call how you got from there to here.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I had a beautiful experience that was filled with angst and pain. When I was 26 years old, that brought to light how I lived up until that moment, and how I had an awakening of my conditioning.
Wait a minute. This is not a story. What? You have to tell us a little more detail.
No, well, the story comes from this moment where I said yes to a hunch, to an aha, to this knowing without knowing why moment, and ordered via mail and check, because this was back when I was 26 and I'm now 55, almost 56. Okay, we're talking 87 or 86, where I knew I had to get a copy of this thing from Astrolab in Brewster, Massachusetts. And it was my astrological chart. And up until that moment, I had absolutely no idea of anything like that. And I was at an incredible crossroads. As anyone who's an astrologer knows, you're starting to move into the late 20s, first Saturn return. And it was starting to happen where I was getting shook. And I had been in a 7-year relationship, and we were college sweethearts for 4 years and then broke up and on it. And I was getting the feeling it was time to jet out. And I needed to tap courage, because there was so much love and so much history, and it was very beautiful. But I was feeling less and less content. And I realized I didn't have the clarity of yes or no. Mm-hmm. And so where do I go to trust? Mm-hmm. Who do I go to trust? So I threw out a sprinkle of faith and surrender and let go to this astrological thing, because my gut, my enteric brain said, you have to. It was like I was on autopilot. I went over and wrote the check and put it in the mailbox. Well, it showed up, and I was living at Bourne Farm on Cape Cod, and I ran a bath. This pamphlet showed up, thick, and I got in the bathtub and I read it. And I can't even begin to tell you. I felt seen. I ate every word. It was a language I spoke, and I felt like I was being seen.
Wow.
I know. Wow. So right there, I realized there's so much more going on than meet the eye, and it woke me up to how I was as a child.
Wow.
I would have hours on end of daydreaming, I set up a whole room in my closet filled with just a carpet, a light, books, a metal tea set, trolls. I wasn't into Barbies, trolls. And I went off on my imagination, and it was my cave, my sacred space where I could let down and be me in all my imagination. That is my intuition. I would see movies on the wall late at night, like lucid dreaming. Okay, and then the conditioning comes in. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're crying again, Jane. Oh, you're crying again. And so I learned to buck up And it was because I wasn't being seen. I had very loving parents. They were together 50 years. It was a very wonderful childhood. But I never felt seen or that I could really be heard.
Right.
And my intuition got small. I got contracted and in my small self. So thank you, astrology.
Wow.
And also all the other wild choices I made. I have always been connected to an inner knowing, which can sometimes seem like stubbornness to people. And I want y'all to know out there, if you get pushback when you just know and you don't know why, let everybody do what they're going to do and hold true. Mm-hmm. I just really want women particularly, and men of course, to really stand by their enteric brain and live intrinsically. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now more than ever. Mm-hmm. And well, the astrology right now for Uranus and Taurus is really calling everybody home to the place of true refuge, which is our body. Mm-hmm. So the rapport you have between your mind and your body and the divine and your soul, because intuition is about releasing control into a more curious place. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I really want to encourage everybody to meditate. I mean, we could do a body scan right now if we have time, but the gifts of astrology have lived with me. And like I said, it's a language I speak. And the way I use it is to look at the outer planetary bodies and how they're impacting. It's not so much this day-to-day thing, but more connecting my inner world with the greater world around me. Oprah says it, right? Mm-hmm. You know, connecting with the life inside you in connection with the life outside you, to me, is living mindful and wholehearted. So I want to say that there's a lot of, one of the first steps to intuition. So then awakening to the astrological and then being like skeptic. And I realized that skepticism is one of the number one distractions for you living intuitively. Know that. When you feel cynical, skeptic, you are cutting off your third eye perspective, your third eye glance. Okay? When you're preoccupied with right and wrong, success and failure, you're caught. You're not living intuitively. Mm-hmm. It's not success or failure. It's the willingness to take the exquisite risk. And that's really, Mark Nepo, the great poet, the exquisite risk. It's one of my favorite things. This is what intuition lets you do and be. Everything you know you need to do and be without getting thwarted by culture and conditioning and habits and patterns that tell you otherwise. This is my Rebirth Your Worth program. It's no. You must do what it is you know. You must
say a little bit more about that. So I know that a big part of your work is around worth and worthiness, and I really love that work because I feel like we have an epidemic of unworthiness, and I think it's a very big area.
Right. So worth, like in astrology, you build it in every piece of the pie. It's the 360 degrees of you. It's 12 months, 12 constellations, 9 planets. It's an opportunity to rebirth your worth in every sector. Now, so that it's seamless, so that the way you show up at work is the way you show up home. Now, I'm not saying the energies aren't different. But to me, when you're standing in worth, it's the quality of presence that you bring to this world that is so much in need of your vision, your truths, your clarity of purpose. So this requires knowing mind states. That's why if you're afraid to feel in, right? The InStory, if you're afraid to feel in and be honest, intuition will elude you. You see, there's a million different distractions. I wrote a bunch of them down. If you're attached to be, if you're Mrs. IQ or Mr. IQ, if you're attached to your left brain, intuition is a right brain activity. It's a collab between the two. It's the whole, but it's initiated in your right brain. So, how's your imagination? What are you doing every day in a creative way? How can you let your freak flag fly a little bit more freely? Right? This is worth. This isn't hiding and avoiding and not willing to feel, because you can't heal what you don't feel, people. I know it sounds like a cliche, it's not. So activate your imagination. It's really about getting very comfortable with the unknown.
Well, and I think it's getting this part of ourselves back. It's like you said, you naturally have a kid.
You're born with it. You're born whole, worthy, and wise.
And creative and imaginative and intuitive and all those things.
And then it erodes. And so it's about, like any spiritual practice, remembering.
Yeah.
It's constantly the process of awakening. And so it takes allowance. You have to allow everything to be just as it is.
Right.
Because that's reality. And then you work with reality. And if you don't understand what's real, you arrive in the present moment, you take a pause, you take a breath where you know you're breathing. At the bottom of that exhalation, you relax in. You stop, you arrive in stillness, and you relax in for 20 seconds. And you feel all the dynamic sensations that are rising and subsiding in your body. It's my favorite hip pocket practice. It's the power of the pause. And I have a manual on my website you can download for free. And it is a game-changing practice if you want to connect with your intuition and begin to build that rapport, that trust with your enteric brain, your inner knowing and instinctual truths. And here's the other thing about intuition. Even though we just paused and stopped, because present moment, okay, with compassion, the two wings of awareness don't happen if you're caught in reactivity. So that's why we have to stop reactivity to create a little gap that we can then fill once the stimulus has created a stimulus. And then before we respond, we get to fill this gap with consciousness. I know, this is intuition. That consciousness is intuitive understanding and knowing.
Right.
And a connection with the true self, not the habituated reactivity of, take off your shoes, like I just cleaned the house or whatever. Whatever. Getting caught in this corona fear. You all know it doesn't help. Please pause, download the manual. Just clear your mind. That's another way to embrace intuition. Every day, commit to clearing your mind. You can walk in nature. This is more of a tutorial, but I can't help it. This is what my astrological chart has led me to. Yoga. For 33 years, it's been steady and consistent. I'm not just talking about asana, all of it, the teachings, honesty, truthfulness, non-harming, non-violence, surrender, practice with non-attachment. I'm clairsentient. So that's the other thing, folks. There's a lot of different ways that's called the clairs. So there's, knowing, there's the psychic, there's the empath, there's all different, auditory, sensory, and I'm clairsentient. So you get physical downloads, and those are what are called cues. So this is another way for people here to begin to interact with your intuition and build trust, is to look for cues. So everyone's going, what do you mean, right? What's a cue? What's a cue? What do you think a cue is?
Cool stuff that happens that surprises you.
Okay, that's right. It's true. So you know, these ahas of like, okay, first of all, you have to believe that there's more going on than meets the eye. And that there's unseen correlations, right? Energies and frequencies that we can tap into. Numbers are a great way to begin to understand a connection with the intuitive knowing. Okay, folks, notice numbers. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
And it will take you into a whole realm. Just know that when you see a consistent number, like when I'm teaching yoga, for example, I always check the clock at 10:10. And then I know it's bizarre. And now the class is onto it. They're like, she did it again. There's something about it. Okay. I always see 444222111. I'm just saying, I know all of you out there, once you start dialing in, you're going to be like, wow, I am look around in those moments. What's going on? Just take note. It doesn't have to be this big, profound thing. It's a coincidence that's not a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Deja vus. I wrote these down. Colors. Okay. The clock, images and symbols. So in your dream world, for example, or if you start seeing or hearing certain words, but that's not what they said. We've all done that. I'm like, wow, I just got that really skewed up. And then you're like, no, actually, that's really interesting. That makes more sense. Just notice these things because you're not going crazy. You're actually, things are starting to come together and you're in the right place at the right time. And this is what builds trust. Mm-hmm. It requires a little bit of the fantasy and letting go. And we like to be in control. Mm-hmm. So it's okay. You now know what time it is, but you're also noticing that it's always 20 of or 20 after the hour that you look at the time.
So then how does a person how does that help them?
Because what you're doing is living in trust that then enables you to feel agency, to act for what is true for you. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, that is what the world is waiting for. Mm-hmm. Please don't fall asleep right now. Mm-hmm. Please tell your stories. Mm-hmm. We must raise the vibration and we must begin to choose from the inside out. And so many are, you know, you've met, probably many of the people here are very well aware of the great ascension going on right now and how the third dimension is kind of done. And we're now able to, in our third eye, this is how it can really help you. We're now getting more aware. There's more awareness on the planet and we can be more present. Is that your husband out there doing something with the dog or somebody on the street?
No, we have a beautiful path that other people won't see that.
Beautiful.
We have a beautiful walking path by our house.
Beautiful. Okay. Sorry, had to. Raising the vibration. We're wired for negativity. You all know that, you know, your brain. So we survive. Mm-hmm. Well, right now, everyone's feeling quite threatened about their own survival, right? The big elephant in the room. Corona, market crash, etc. This is a beautiful time to make a choice. So this is agency. This is trusting your intuitive knowing. Mm-hmm. We all now need to make empowered choices from within and rein in our own inner authority, power, and control. The way you get the agency to do that is through your intuitive knowing. You don't have to know why. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Trust your brain belly, people. Trust your gut. It's connected to here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Your emotions and this knowing here, when you bring them together.
Yeah. And we feel it, you know, and a lot of times what I see is people start to remember, oh, I have this other way of knowing, this is how it used to be, but we didn't get a lot of validation growing up in the culture for trusting that. And so a lot of what my work is about, your work is about, this whole series and all of us, it's about helping each other, like support each other to trust it. I'm going to give you new good feedback for this. You're going to get rewired for it, you know. So,
and there's a reason that many people choose to go back to sleep and go back into conditioned mind and stay small. And it's because it takes practice. People hear that word and they go, oh, I can't sit and meditate. You don't have to. Go out in nature. Go be where you love. This is how you raise the frequency. This is how you make your life. We are here to experience joy and happiness. Yes, it's so exciting. I call it the inner yes, activating your inner yes. And that's living courageously when you can act on that. You see, intuition loves speed. Even though we must arrive in the present moment and slow down and still the mind so we can get the downloads, right? We can understand all the sensations in our body and things like that as the great GPS system. It's not outside you. It's inside you.
Right, right. But we don't have, that's why, like I said, how do you trust your intuition? Now, the speakers are teaching our audience, how do you trust it? Because we didn't get taught that. We didn't get taught, how do you trust it? How do you know that it's right or true or valid or whatever?
Okay, are you happy?
So,
good way.
Well, and also in your body, right. Well, you don't always know what will happen next from a decision.
And therefore you got to be happy with there's more going on than meets the eye, and that everything is a lesson or a blessing.
Yeah.
Not a curse.
Right.
Not a curse.
Right.
You can choose to go, I was wrong. I said to you in the beginning of this, there are distractions. It's, am I going to be successful or fail? You know what? That's not choosing your own evolution. That's playing it safe, and you're in the drift. You're back in the drift. You're playing it safe. That's, if you're happy, great. If you sense a calling, if you sense a longing, if you have an aspiration, like I really want to write a book. Oh, Devorah's got it. Devorah, you can help me write that book. Let's do it, you know? And Devorah's going to help you write that book. It's like, I got to do this. I got to get my chart read. I've got to, you know, trust those things. Invest in yourself. Your happiness is so important. Fulfilling your heart desires is everything. We're not here to suffer.
Right. What a concept.
But you know, you got to unplug. And here's the other thing about intention. Okay. I just said it. Trusting yourself. It has to do with setting intention and then holding. And this is where people go, you know, I do. Every time I set intention, I forget about it. It doesn't matter. I want to give you permission to know that you're allowed to forget what your intention was. And then re-arrive and set another one that's based on the present moment. That's practical and tangible and positive.
Yeah. And that, because it takes it right back to the first thing you said, which is that pausing in the moment. Then you can actually notice, like, I thought that was really powerful what you said, because you can't notice your intuition without that pause. Because you can't hear it over the din of everything else.
Right. And so you have to arrive in awareness, presence, and kind attention.
Yeah.
And what you give attention to, I love Tara Brach for this, what you give attention to grows. So why not give attention to the positive?
Right.
Like, experiment during this whole time, and you will see, listeners, you will see how infectious you become to others. It's so beautiful when you're an agent of positivity. And that's what I love about astrology. And that's what I love about yoga, or anybody's embodied awareness, practice, somatic experience, any kind of self-help stuff. You've got Karen, you know, the human design, Enneagram. Learn about yourself. Get curious. Tell your stories. I love what you do, Devorah. And it's just like, look for the cues. You know, even just like take a minute. And, you know, even if this feels awkward, just like put your hand on your third eye, tap it. Just tap it. Just touch into this crazy experience of tapping.
Mm-hmm.
Explore it. The world is so exciting right now in more ways than we probably wish for.
No, but I think it's true. Like, I think a lot of us are feeling the calling to emanate from this higher realm, not to emanate from the contracted place, but to really, how do you emanate from this more expanded intuitive realm? And then and then you still bring it down into some kind of form. And I have people bring into stories, but it's bringing it down into whatever it is you do in the world. But you can emanate from the constricted place, or you can emanate from that more expanded place. So I really love what you're saying about that pause and filling that pause and tapping back into your worth. And I love that you call it rebirth your worth, because you already have it.
You already have it. You just forgot.
Or it got covered up. I like to say you got a lot of gunk on it, so just clean the gunk off.
Yeah, no, that's like a big word right now. Actually, it's interesting that you say that in the ascension circles. Yeah, it's, you know, yeah, yuck. It's called yuck. Like, just clear the yuck out. And it's like, it takes permission. And that's a lot of, you know, my coaching is like, here's the permission slip. And now here's the practice. So like, for example, what I do, you write, tell stories, and it's a practice. Well, I also engage people with their own personal practices that's based on their reality. Like, oh my God, I've seen so many people set themselves up for complete failure. It breaks my heart. And that's, you know, you can get a free discovery call if you go to janefriedman108.com, and you as well will set them up with a personal practice that connects you with the divine, that connects you with building rapport between your mind and your body, so that you can be an agent of positivity and have the confidence to act on your truths, what you value.
I know.
And it's so good.
It's so powerful. And we so need each other to do this work. Like what you do for the women in your world, or the men and women in your world, and what they then turn around and do for the next person. It's really being asked of us. It's a very strong thing. So, all right, well, tell us a little bit about what your free gift is so that people can take a next step.
Okay. So if you're curious, I have a free newsletter that comes out once a month. And it's when the constellation changes into a new one. So the next letter coming out, is Aries, and that will be what this list is privy to, which is pretty exciting time because it's my new year. It's our great mother Gaia's new year. Okay, it's not January 1st. Spring, when the sun goes into Aries, it rules the first house in the ascendant and rising sign, and therefore it's our new year, and we begin the journey around the sun. And that's when Rebirth Your Worth starts, for example. It's a year-long program. Living
that makes sense. I love that Rebirth Your Worth starts in the spring, at least this hemisphere's spring.
Yeah, no, it has to. And it has to be a year because there's 12 constellations. It's a great template, great curricula. But Worthy and Tonic is a little introduction to the sun, just the sun sign, and the moon cycles, the new and full. And there's a worthiness message, and then opportunities and obstacles, and then a list of practices. And they're really fun. They're all different. Some physical, some spiritual, some simple things as taking a sacred bath, as in Pisces, and how to do it, and really bringing beauty into the mundane. That's something I take a stand for. I take a stand. It's part of worth. You're really beautiful, listener. You, Devorah, you're so beautiful. Everybody, you're beautiful. And bringing that forth is like, and knowing it, wholeheartedly knowing it in the marrow of your bones, is really the agency I'm talking about, and infusing your life with more reverence by making life a spiritual practice, just really being present with the life that's living through you and being in support of it. And then all those who grace your circle, as you were saying earlier, get the benefit of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like your light and your love. That's it. We are light.
Like that's all, we're all of us here that will be listing all this because we're on this mission to bring this more light and love into the world. And look, we have a Facebook group for the InStory show. It's called the InStory World. And I would love for people to grab Jane's free gift and choose a favorite practice and tell us what it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's so powerful to choose practices. And Jane, what I love is that you give a whole bunch. Because often people get stuck thinking, I have, just like everything else, I have to do this practice right, just like everybody else. And I love that you have like a whole list of different practices. And I also love that you said to raise your vibration to feel joy. I often say joy is kind of underrated in our culture. And so everybody grab her free gift and
enjoy it.
You'll be amazed every month to have that kind of connection. And it's very powerful. The people who are really tuned into astrology like Jane, it's amazing because there's this incredible connecting of the dots that I find so super cool.
Yes.
So get her gift, then jump in the Facebook group, tell us what you're thinking and what your free gift is and so forth.
Yay!
So Jane, just before we wrap up, leave us maybe with one or two last thoughts.
Okay. Here's a great mantra for you to help you with your pause. And I do encourage people to go to janefriedman108.com and get the Power of the Pause manual downloaded. That's on there. I think
it's in your free gift. There was a link for it once I get
Great. Yes, it's on the Worthy and Tonic newsletter every month because it's so pivotal.
I got her free gift and there's a ton of very cool stuff there, and I love that.
Thank you, love.
Super cool.
Because I'm really into practical and tangible. That's a great doorway into the divine and the spiritual and the positive.
So a great mantra.
Yes, I am here. I am now. I am. And you can use that when you're in transition, just like the pause, which is stopping, conscious breath, and relaxing in and noticing how you feel. And if you're anxious, keep your eyes open and hold your hands. Anyone anxious? Hold your hands. But I am here. I am now. I am is so grounding. It just, right? You can feel it. Like I can feel it in my house. It's went, and it will bring you into the present moment, and you will come to your senses, and you will not get caught and pulled under into the fear, into the small self, into the anger, into the reactivity. You can choose there. You can choose with I am here, I am now, I am okay. Yeah.
That's the feeling it gives me, like
yeah. And all is well in this moment.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking in the moment.
Yeah. And that's super powerful practice. And I really encourage everybody to get her free gift, go in the Facebook group, let us know a practice that you're experimenting with, and see what happens. I would love to hear. Jane, thank you so much.
Devorah, thank you. It's beautiful.
Love your energy, love what you do in the world. And look, the work to reestablish worth and worthiness is such a big work and so important. So
yes, it is. Thanks for being the messenger.
Thank you. And everybody, as I always say in farewell, remember to go out in the world, share your story, live your purpose, and be a blessing. Bye, everybody.
Bye.